with that down, let's move on to the fourth and final main topic today. And our fourth and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Issac Tristan, who writes, "Hello, John. Big fan of yours. Thank you so much since the AMC days. So I just read The Last of Us is going to get a TV series adaptation on HBO. As someone who loves the video game, I cannot wait to see Joel and Ellie on the live screen. My question is, what do you think of this news, and could it have worked as a movie? Thanks, and bring on the filthy." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And listen, Last of Us is probably, I think it might be fair to say, the video game that people have been waiting to see transferred into a movie. Look, I always say that video games, they're not made to be narrative storytelling. They are made for gameplay and incorporate brilliantly, at least some of them do, narrative storytelling to accentuate gameplay and blah, blah, blah. But there are some that truly, when you look down and sit with their narratives, they truly are cinematic. And Last of Us might be the best example of that ever. Uncharted, Thief's End is very, very good. God of War has some really big potential, but I think Last of Us is the game. It's the game that I think kind of represents the pinnacle of what could possibly be. You know what I mean? And there have been years now that people have been talking about, you know, so-and-so bought the movie rights and it kind of lapsed, and these people are going to develop something, then nothing ever happens, and we've just been sitting and waiting. Well, now we're not waiting any longer. It's official. It's been announced. The Last of Us is being turned into an HBO series, and it's being brought to us by the guy who was the showrunner of Chernobyl, probably one of the greatest television events we've had in a long time, because Chernobyl was just awesome. And by the way, the kind of showrunner, if you will, of the Last of Us game, Neil Druckmann, is the two of them are working together on this series. It's going to be a live action series for Last of Us. Now, I think this is going to be brilliant. I think this is going to be good. On the question of, would I rather have seen it as a movie or as a TV show? Let me say this first and foremost. Both carry incredible potential. And I think that this movie version is going, or this television version, I should say, I think, who knows, it might suck, but you've got every recipe that you need to really put this together for something delicious. You've got great source material. You've got the mastermind, or one of the masterminds behind the originating game itself. And you've got a guy who just gave us Chernobyl all at the same time, working with one of the best networks that's got a reputation for putting out quality stuff all at the same time. So I think this is going to be great. I do. That said, while I think it's an absolute win, we win if it's a TV show, we win if it's a movie. I would personally rather it as a movie. Personally. Again, emphasizing again off the top, that's not saying that I'm not super stoked for an HBO show. I am super stoked for an HBO show. I think it's going to be fantastic and I can't wait. I think I would have been even a little bit more excited if it was a movie. Because I think if you took this movie, listen, I think there's a lot of people out there who don't believe in the story of Last of Us. I think there's a lot of people out there who do not believe that the core foundational story of Last of Us is strong enough that it could actually be done really well, really effectively in a 2-hour movie, and that it has to be drawn out over 8 episodes for it to work. I do believe in Last of Us. I do believe in the strength of the core story of Last of Us. Now, it also goes to the point that today there's a feeling today, guys, that everything has to be a TV show. Everybody thinks everything would work better as a TV show. And I have not, by the way, we made that the topic of today's question of the day, whether you want it to be a TV show or movie, and I haven't looked at the results yet, but I can already tell you what they're going to be. It's going to be overwhelmingly people want it as a TV show. And I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But people are going to overwhelmingly want it as a TV show. Now watch me go over, and I'm going to be totally wrong. But people are going to watch a TV show because there's this feeling right now that everything needs to be television, and you can't possibly do well thought out, well fleshed out stories in movies themselves. And guys, I'm going to tell you this right now. If Shawshank Redemption was let's say a full-length novel, we know it was based on written material, but if it was a full-length novel and you look at it and stuff like that, and then you ask the question today, let's say there was no Shawshank Redemption movie, and you ask the question today, do you think Shawshank Redemption can work as a movie? Everybody would say, no. God, John, That's a story that takes place over decades with so many well thought out and fleshed out characters, whether it's Andy Dufresne or Red, or, you know, how are people going to understand San Juanejo if you just try to cram it all into one movie? And, you know, how are you going to feel the emotional impact of the older inmate who gets out and then ultimately hangs himself because he didn't know how to survive in the outside world? This takes place over decades with multiple characters, with their own storylines. You cannot possibly do this in one movie. It has to be 3 85-episode seasons. That's what people would say today. That's exactly what look at The Godfather. The Godfather, which was based on a novel, as a matter of fact, but if The Godfather had never come out before and it was a big popular novel today, and you suggested we're going to do The Godfather as one movie, they'd say you can't. Look, you can barely season 1. Michael come home from the war, understanding the family and the family business and all that kind of stuff. There's enough there for one season. Second season, Papa gets shot. Michael gets revenge. Michael now has to go to Italy. He gets married. His wife gets murdered. He seeks revenge on the Don who does it. John, that's an entire season of television. And then third season, Michael comes back. You end season 2 with Michael coming back now. He comes back and he takes over the family business. Now he's the Don. And it comes time to settle all family accounts. And season 3 ends with the door. You can't do it in a movie, John. Can't be done. Can't be done. Guess what? It's the greatest movie of all time, or one of the greatest movies of all time. So, the point I'm making here is that if you are skilled enough and you have a strong enough core story and you cut out all the filler, a skilled filmmaker, a skilled storyteller can take these wide scoping stories and make epic pieces of entertainment out of them in a 2.5 hour frame, 2 hour frame, 3 hour frame, whatever. It can be done and be done great and be oh so satisfying. Of course, we were just talking about Chernobyl being amazing. So you can do that in television as well. That's why you get Breaking Bad. That's why you get Game of Thrones. That's why you get Chernobyl. That's why you get Battlestar Galactica, and why you get Sons of Anarchy, and why you get all these incredible television. And they'll do a great job with Last of Us 2. I just think that the core story, whereas a lot of other people may not believe in its strength, I believe the strength in the core story enough that in the right hands of the right storyteller with enough skill, cutting out all the filler, you can deliver a character-rich, plot-deep, thrilling and satisfying action, horror, drama, all wrapped into one glorious package. And they will be able to do it on HBO. They will. And it's going to be awesome. But I think they could have done it as a movie too. I really do. And I think it would have been even better. We don't know that for sure. But that's just kind of my thought on that. Anyway, Rob, we have been talking about this topic for a long time. When is The Last of Us coming? Oh, then there's news, and then there's more news, and then nothing happens. You're hearing about it now making its way to HBO, being done by the showrunner of Chernobyl. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, you know, I've often talked to you about how the first time I played Uncharted, I felt like, wow, this is the closest I've ever come to playing a movie. I was so involved with the characters. I was so involved. The voice acting was so great. But I felt that The Last of Us took that to another level.
Yeah.
It really was a very immersive story. I felt like I was completely wrapped up in the narrative. Loved the game. And it's a long-form story. I mean, there was enough there that I think it's going to work great as a series. I'm excited to see it. I like those characters. That's why, I mean, people talk about those characters as if they're, you know, movie characters already. You know, movie or TV characters. They're completely immersed in that story. And I think it's going to be a great HBO series. And I think the creative team, I mean, they're going A-list all the way on this. Oh, yeah. And it's something that I think is going to be absolutely fantastic. I don't know. I mean, could it have made a good movie? Sure. But there's a lot of story there. I mean, you get caught up. I mean, that's a long-form narrative. And even the game itself, you know, there's enough there for a 10-episode series.
Oh, yeah, there's enough there that you can do.
I think it's going to be HBO's been crushing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Watchmen, you know, I thought I might not have loved it, but it was sure interesting television. The Outsider, I mean, for all of its weird, goofy, supernatural, that was in the book. I read the book. But man, that is A-list all the way. Again, the cast, the way it's shot. I mean, we're seeing some great material coming out of HBO. They don't have Game of Thrones fall back on anymore. So what they're trying to do is they're going after interesting properties, and they're doing some really great stuff. And the fact that HBO is going after this, a video game adaptation, who would have thought that's what HBO would have been looking? Well, this is the one to do.
And just a side note, I remember when AT&T was taking over HBO, and the at the time creative head guy of HBO stepped down. A lot of us, and Rob, I think it's fair to say you and I both as well.
Oh yeah,
a lot of people, including us here, were kind of worried about the direction HBO was going to go, and they have stayed very strong with really great sounding, not only stuff they're putting on now, but stuff like Last of Us that they're bringing with the showrunner of Chernobyl. I mean, they have held it up when a lot of us were kind of worried about the direction they would go.
I mean, aren't they putting out the Plot Against America as well?
Oh yeah,
sure.
with Winona Ryder.
I mean, are they really?
I love that book. I mean, it's basically an alternate history where anti-Semitism rises up in America. I love that book, and I mean, the fact that they're doing that, HBO's crushing it.
They're doing really good stuff. And I got to tell you what, everybody's been talking, including me, been talking about, ooh, Disney Plus is what's going to threaten Netflix. Disney Plus is what's going to threaten Netflix. Meanwhile, really quietly, like a great white shark in the shallows, here comes HBO Max. It's I mean, the content they're putting together is incredible. Anyway, Aaron, you had a chance to read about this. What do you think about them turning Last of Us into an HBO series over there?
I think it's a phenomenal idea. I've been following Craig Mazin on Twitter since I fell in love with Chernobyl. You know, Tom and I were salivating for every new episode of Chernobyl because of the way that the story beautifully unfolded. And sure, I agree with you, John. Could it be made into a movie? Of course it could. You know, if it's a good story, it's a good story that can be translated into a film. It can be translated into a television show. You know, could Game of Thrones have been a movie? Sure, it could have. I'm glad that it was a television show, because when you have more hours to fill and you have someone as creative and capable as a writer like Craig Mazin, each episode, it's not fluff. It's actually rich, and it's saturated with character and story, and you can really get into the motivations behind why these people are doing the things that they're doing, and you're allowed to do a deep dive into that. The fact that he's working directly with Neil Druckmann and Naughty Dog, which is the production company that does the actual video games, you know, all the creative pieces, like Rob was saying, are a part of this, and they're working together, which I'm really excited about. This is Tom's favorite video game. He is over the moon about this. But also, there's a sequel to the video game coming out as well.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of story here that they can unearth. And from what I've read about the story, because I haven't played it myself, this really does have more of a narrative than, say, Super Mario Brothers, which actually Tom and I watched honest movie trailers of last night, and just, wow, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo as Mario and Luigi. It was really kind of sad. I was actually looking at the art, though, that when you put the art up for it, and if you look at the characters, they kind of look like a young Ellen Page and an older Jim Sturgis.
Well, I don't know, you probably didn't hear about this. Ellen Page actually sued them. She said that because they
ripped off her likeness.
They said it was not. We just created a girl. She probably did. She did probably. But they insisted we were not using her as a basis for this. And I can't remember what the outcome of that case was. But yeah, Ellen Page actually sued them for it. I don't know. I can't remember what the outcome of it was, though.
That's
I don't
just
remember.
Bad business. If I'm Ellen Page and I see this, I call Naughty Dog and I go, okay, guys, how can we work together on this? How can I be part of this? Like, why sue them, you know, when you can just join them?
Did she do the voice?
No.
Okay.
See, there you go. If you're Ellen Page, go, hey, guys, I see that your main character looks exactly like me. I would love to. Clearly, I've made an impression on you, so I'd like to be in bed with you guys. How can I help? How can I be involved with this? Maybe you would like for me to do the motion capture. I can give you all of Ellen Page's facial expressions because they're mine. I can also give you Ellen Page's voice because that's mine too. Let's work together, and then all of a sudden, Ellen Page is an executive producer of the television series that makes a ton of money, and there you go, another thing. But
well,
hey,
you just made her case for her by not even knowing about the lawsuit and saying, man, she looks exactly like Ellen Page. You just kind of made her like, I don't know. For all we know, she did make that call, and they said, no, we did not base this on you. And she said, okay, I feel like you're trying to capitalize on my likeness, and therefore I'm going to sue. So I don't know all the background to it, but it is a crazy story. So listen, bottom line here, guys. I think this is going to be awesome. You got the showrunner from Chernobyl, the architect of the original game behind it. This is going to be pretty epic. Now, I gotta admit, I still think it would be even better as a movie. Rob and Aaron disagree. Let's go over and take a look. I'm sure the vast majority of you disagree too. Let's see if I'm gonna be stunned here. So the results of today's question of the day, which was, Last of Us isn't getting a movie, but instead an HBO series. Would you have preferred a TV show or movie treatment for the game? And you guys, a little over 2,000 of you guys have voted. We put this up just before, and as I predicted, 87.5% of you are saying you want it as a TV show, and it's going to be awesome. It will be great. 12.5% of you, if you think like me, it's like, oh man, it would be even better as a movie. But whatever, it just finally looks like we're getting Last of Us brought to a live action version of the screen. Question is, guys, how do you feel about this? Are you excited about this? Do you think it's good that they're bringing in the original architect of the game to work with the Chernobyl showrunner? Do you think maybe that's a mistake? Or do you have some opinions? Like, can you see anybody other than, because everybody wants to see Hugh Jackman playing this. And I'm thinking, no, that's a little too on the nose. But maybe you do. How are you feeling about it? Jump into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.